Redemption for me. Tyrese Maxey. I'll explain why in a moment. But they were taking on the Spurs yesterday. No Embiid in this game. Spurs had a 7-point lead, and Wembanyama was ridiculous.
Defies all logic. A guy this size can have that in his arsenal. A sidestep corner three.
He had 33 points and 18 rebounds, but the Sixers would fight back, led by Maxey finding Batum.
Super underrated pickup, by the way. Nicholas Batum is going to pay big dividends in the postseason.
Yeah, and San Antonio, they've been playing pretty well down the stretch of the season. Actually, they have a 2-point lead here. Final seconds of regulation. Maxey for the tie.
Well drawn up play and a great counter by Maxey. He's going to get denied, so he makes the back cut, gets to the rim to force overtime.
Tyrese Maxey, a career high 52 points in this game. And in the OT, he would take over.
This is why he's special. He makes all these runners, odd angles, opposite foot, but the Spurs weren't going away. Devontae Graham gives them the lead again with a minute to go.
Yeah, and so the Sixers needed another bucket. And they find on the pretty dish KJ Martin. We go to a second overtime, and that's where Philly would put this one away, up by 5 already, and they're dunking again.
Yeah, Ricky Council, KJ Martin gave them huge minutes and production in this game to help close this out. Embiid couldn't play back-to-backs. Huge game for Philly, and they get the win on the road.
Watch them play their way out of the play-in. Maxey, a career-high 52. Again, Wembanyama had 33 and 18. But Tyrese Maxey now has 3 50-point games this season. That ties Embiid and Allen Iverson for the third most by a Sixers player in any season ever. Embiid also has 3 50-point games this year, so it's the Sixers' first time that they have multiple players with at least 3 50-point games in a season. But I mentioned this is sweet redemption for me because when I was hosting NBA Countdown a couple of years ago, I got into this heated debate with Stephen A. and Michael Wilbon, both of whom I love and admire, and both of whom have forgotten more basketball than I'll ever know. But I kept telling them, James Harden is not the second best player on the Sixers. Tyrese Maxey is the second best player on the Sixers, and if they had treated him that way then, they may not have lost some of those heartbreaking series that they did, and he is the reason that Embiid has a chance to make it look different this year.
Well, that night you should have just phoned a friend. I would have popped up and I would have backed you because what I've said about Tyrese Maxey, even going back to 2 years ago when they lost in the playoffs to the Heat, certainly what happened last year against the Celtics, Tyrese Maxey should have been given more control of the offense. And I know it's a difficult thing to do because James Harden plays one style. You bring him in to allow him to play one style. He dominates the ball to that extent. Maxey was off ball. He was a little bit forgotten at times offensively. Here is where Maxey's biggest impact comes. He affects Joel Embiid's body language. He affects his psyche because he knows Embiid, when he looks at his co-star, this isn't someone who is going to run from the brightest lights. And he felt that from the previous 2-point guards. James Harden in the postseason, Ben Simmons certainly the way that it ended for him in that Atlanta series before he left town. And Embiid would be affected by that. And look, justifiably so. He had some bad games when he needed to be better, but I think it's because he felt like he was out there by himself in terms of no co-star was going to step up tonight. Maxey gives him a different level of confidence. They've got incredible chemistry. And Embiid, as a result, wanted to fight his way back to have this run here at the end of the regular season and see what can happen in the postseason. And when you look at the top of the East, Greeny, outside of Boston, Philadelphia can make a strong argument that they can make a run all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals. In fact, I think they will. If they can get the 7th seed, I do think that's important to have that 1-7-8 game at home. So then you avoid the Celtics as the 7th seed. If you go on the road as a 7-8, lose, even if you end up the 8, you get Boston right off the bat in the first round. They're not going to beat the Celtics.
Sixers are red hot right now, and I so agree with everything you just said about Maxey, his impact on Embiid and his impact on this overall picture right now. And so, by the way, Alan Hahn was sitting in here the other day saying, Greeny, why do you all of a sudden think when Embiid has never taken this team here, there, or anywhere? Maxey is the reason why this could be different. In the meantime, one of the teams they're chasing, the team who will probably wind up in the 2 spot, is Milwaukee. They had dropped 4 straight games going into this, or they had dropped 3 straight entering this. Spoiler alert, they're going to lose this game too to Jalen Brunson and the Knicks, even though Milwaukee has an 11-point lead. But here comes Brunson.
And listen, what he does with just footwork, balance, strength, and IQ is amazing. And he did it again in this one, just controlling the game.
He and Isaiah Hartenstein were both terrific, especially in that third quarter. The Knicks would score 39 points in the quarter and erase the entire deficit, take the lead on the road. And the Knicks would pull away in the fourth quarter. And again, it's led by Brunson, who had 43 points.
And this play right here, you know how difficult it is to go that hard, pivot away and not drag the pivot foot to travel. That's all strength and understanding what you're trying to accomplish. And Dante DiVincenzo has had a career year offensively for the Knicks.
Yeah, it was 8 of 11 from 3. DiVincenzo was 26 points for the Knicks, who wind up winning again. And so, look, their story is terrific. They've had a really good year. The injury to Randall is a terrible break for them. But Brunson has had like an all-NBA, I think, second team probably season when you consider SGA and Luka. But how about Milwaukee? I mean, I thought they were going to catch fire, and it has been the absolute opposite.
It's very bizarre what's happened to them. You expected a transition period when Doc got there and they weren't very good, but then they started playing better. And I thought personally in watching them, they were playing harder. I didn't think there was any massive adjustment made by Doc in terms of scheme, but he was definitely making them more accountable for their effort. But now you're starting to see shoulders drop, body language not great. It looks to me like there's a lack of belief collectively amongst this group. And right now they're reeling. I mean, this is a team that's been one of the worst in the league in clutch games since Doc got there. So if you get them into a one-possession game, 5 minutes to go, they are coming up on the short end of those games. Their metrics aren't there, offensively, defensively. I still don't think Lillard and Antetokounmpo have really found their peak stride offensively that can overcome some of these things. So as you look at it right now, the Milwaukee Bucks are just not an imposing team, Greeny.
They are 2 games under.
Reading what's going on in the women's national championship game, but you don't feel well enough to play? I'm just putting it out there. I mean, he is LeBron James. I get it, the second greatest player ever. Yeah. But at the same time, as a Lakers fan, I don't feel great about it, especially with how competitive that game was yesterday. I mean, that was a ball game, and it shouldn't have been. When AD gets knocked out of that game, I guess he catches one to the face from Naz Reid, knocks him out, aggravates an eye injury that he had. The Lakers should not have had any chance to be competitive, but they were. I mean, Jackson Hayes was awesome. Rui played well. And I hate to give this guy any credit, but D'Angelo Russell played well as well. So it's just, that was a game that the Lakers shouldn't have been in, but they found themselves in. And just knowing how thin the margin of error is for them, I feel a way that LeBron James wasn't able to play, but he was able to tweet about the women's game last night.
Well, it's interesting. And by the way, the Wolves have become a hot ticket. We know that. Brought to you by Vivid Seats, the official ticketing partner of ESPN. Get great deals on the hottest tickets. Experience it live. Couple of kind of branches off of that tree, right? LeBron tweeting about the women's game. Bronny announces on Friday that he's entering the NBA draft and also keeping his options open for transferring, which we had no idea the destination on Friday. Do we know now? Is he going to Arkansas? Just throwing that out there.
I'm just saying, the Must Bus was like, hey, we'd like you to come back to USC.
He may go to his other school, though, that he just left.
Yeah.
Couldn't you see him going to Arkansas with Calipari? Just throwing that out there. LeBron and Calipari, very close. Mm-hmm. Maybe we have a little mystery on Friday about Bronny because that move hadn't happened.
But it was coming down the pipeline.